So guys, I want to do another tough video today, and I know like sometimes I do talk about like a lot about like my family life and just how I've been hurt by family members and domestic violence and emotional abuse. But another thing I do want to talk about is just some issues that I do have that I did have a tough breakup with my therapist, and I dealt with like some inappropriate behavior and inappropriate things that were said to me by him, and that could be one video. And I do want to talk about some addictions that I have, not like any drug or anything like that, but I would love to do a video talking about spending money addiction, and other vices as well, really, because I definitely just want to help people out, really. Food addiction, work addiction, sex addiction, um, just and maybe self-destructive behavior and other things like that, because maybe in a way I can kind of analyze myself and help myself while helping other people. But I do want to talk a little bit about spending addiction, and that's been something that I've had through my entire life, really. And I kind of always say it's really because of how my father raised me, because my father always was kind of like that person too. If I was ever drinking a drink, my dad's the type of person that would grab my hand and be like, okay, that's enough, that's enough, that's enough, that's enough, really. Because you know, that's kind of one aspect where I kind of think that it was just because I was raised with a lot of just like strictness and restraints, really. Because I remember like when I was a kid, um, I would like the rule was that nobody's allowed to have more than two slices of pizza and all the salad in the world. Or whenever I spent money, I remember like when I was in high school, I walked the dog like $20 a week, and then the other part of it was that if I made a certain amount of money, my dad would take it away and put it in the bank, really, and then I never saw it, really. So, and then also too, I remember like sometimes there were toys or things that I want. My parents were like, what, don't stop spending your money on fucking bullshit. Or I remember like I did a video like last year where I talked about like how my grandmother and my dad were having a flip out because I wanted to go to because I went to Burger King and I didn't eat off the dollar menu, and I had like a burger that was on like the regular menu, just like a flip out over like spending me $5 or $6 more, really. Like, so I think that part of that is growing up with I think the words conniptions or theatrics when I spent like little money, really. So there is a sense of people treating like money spending like a big deal, really. And I also feel that, maybe in a way, I've kind of learned something like, oh, well, I just don't want to deal with disappointments, really, because nothing's more disappointing when then you have a big paycheck and you have plans and then you're like, oh, well, you can't do it. For example, like in 2 weeks, I'm going to Greensboro for AEW Blood and Guts. I got an Airbnb paid for. I got my plane tickets, and I got to go to the match, really. So I don't. So let's say everything was refundable. Like, what would happen if I was like, you know what, I want to save money because my brother wants me to move out in like 2 years. So I'm gonna take all that. I'm gonna undo everything, get my money back, and then I'm gonna call my boss and say like, hey, you know what, I want to pick up on this day. So you know what, I'm saving $800, and I'm also working 14 hours at my job. My shins are going to be hurting. And then also my camera and my iPhone and everything like that. I go on a couple more months without doing a project, really. So it's kind of like, I think the other thing that's been taught is really okay if you don't. Saving money is always a disappointment. Saving money is always a letdown. Saving money is always like getting fucked over, and sometimes I think another part of it is that whenever I tried to save money or my parents forced me to save money, it was always like ball busting. Like I remember like one time in high school, I ordered a pizza and then my dad came home early and saw me eat that. Then he was like, okay, I gotta take all your money and I gotta put it in a bank account and everything like that, really, because he felt like eating like a pizza was ridiculous. So sometimes like it's like that thing they say. That's the reason why a lot of kids do lie, or that's why a lot of kids have secrets. Or there's a lot of times where kids just don't hang out with their parents once they go to college, and then they live on their own because they're like, hey, you know what? You just come in and you take over everything. Hey, you come in and you're very controlling. Hey, you just take over, really. I think that that's part of another part of it, and I think I go back to a lot is just power issues, because what is more powerful than saying, hey, you know what, you got a paycheck, I'm taking your money because I'm your parent. You have a paycheck, I'm spending your money, or you have a paycheck, I'm spending your money on expenses. Or like when I said that I graduated, when I graduated college, my aunt gave me a letter with $100 in it, and my dad did something like, no, you're not going to spend it on fucking books. We're putting it in the fucking bank because I don't like that you graduated college and you wore a white tuxedo. You're going to waste, well, you're going to be 40 years old with a bunch of fucking white tuxedos in your fucking closet, really. So, and part of that I think comes to why I don't save money. Like I said, part of it, the power issues, but part of it is just anger and condescending, really. And part of it is a sense of freedom because, like I said before, like you try living in a house, like is just like I said before, it's a sense of freedom. It's a sense of saying, you know what, it's my money, it's my choice, and nobody tells me what the fuck to do, really. Because, like I said, imagine if you went into a bar and you're drinking a beer, you're drinking like gulp, 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 and somebody's grabbing your hand, being like, hey, you need to stop, you need to moderate, breathe some of that oxygen, have some of those chips, hang out a while. You'd want to punch them in the face and be like, hey, you don't treat me like that. Or even if you have a kid, there's plenty of parents that'll be like, there are plenty of times where parents do that, and then our people will say, hey, you don't treat your kid like that. Even though that's your kid, don't treat your kid like that. Don't disrespect your kid like that. What the hell is wrong with you? Because you're teaching you're teaching your kid, you know what? I'm the adult. I have every right to disrespect you because I am bigger. I'm stronger. And part of being a parent is sometimes control freak issues. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't save is because I think part of it is a sense of power. Part of it is a sense of being angry with my parents, really. And part of it is just ball busting, or part of it is just like, you know what? And I also think the other thing is just lifestyle, because I think that one thing that happens when you don't save money is you develop a lifestyle. Like right now, I live with my brother, but he wants me to move out in 2 years. That means I have to like save money. I have to get a place to rent. I got to pay off some IRS debt. I have to have restrictions really. And each time he's like this, you know what? You're gonna move out in 2 years. You're gonna have a nice place. You're gonna spend $1,500 in rent and other things like that. Really. So it always seems like with my family, it always seems like whenever somebody wants you to mature or like get a car or move out or save money, it always seems like what, I want to push your buttons, I want to strike a nerve with you, and that's not the way to raise somebody. Because as I said before, my brother weighs 300 pounds. So what would happen if I called his insurance company, because he works for the state of Connecticut, and I was like saying, oh, my brother's 300 pounds, really, you need to, he needs to pay an extra $300 or $400, and $300 has to come out of his check because he's unhealthy, really. Or I take pictures of him with all the big burgers that he's eating, and I give that to the insurance company. I'm like, hey, you know what? This is how my brother eats and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, well, you know what? Since you're eating like that, we need to see your food bill for the next year, and if you're eating healthy, you're buying healthy food, we're gonna lower your insurance company. It would be helping my brother be healthy. It would be teaching him not to gorge on his food, but he would want to whoop my ass because he'd be like, oh, well, I gotta change my lifestyle because you decide to implement something. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? It's good that you're not eating that much because now I can sleep, because I can sleep with you making a salad versus you banging pots and pans and making a 10-pound cheeseburger for yourself or something like that. But I also think that part of it is getting into lifestyles, and I'll step into that. Which is that when you spend a lot of money all the time, really, you're not really thinking about your future. You're thinking about the moment, really. I like AEW. I review AEW. I bring my drone to different places. I do travel videos. I read Hamburger America and go to hamburger places. I review things on the road. I like my lifestyle of traveling, exploring new places, and doing a lot of really great stuff, really. I visit all 50 states. I have a goal to visit Japan next year. I have a goal to visit. They have Wembley Stadium for AEW, so I may spend a week in Europe. What isn't that the American dream, really? But imagine. So you just feel like if you say, I'm not going to spend a week in Europe. I'm not going to watch AEW on. I'm not going to watch AEW pay-per-views I'm just going to work every single day. And my boss said there's unlimited overtime. So maybe next year I'm going to work 16 hours every single day and save all my money. And then I'm going to call my dad and be like, hey, dad, I want you to. Um, I want you to be my account manager. You take all my money and you slap me in the face every single time I spend $1 on myself. I should also, go down to the soup kitchen and ask for bread and a loaf of lettuce, really, and that's gonna be my dinner for the next month, for the next year, really, so I can save enough money to move out of my brother's place. So that way, when my parents die, I have like hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for their funerals, and my other brothers, will get off scot free without paying for it. You get what I'm saying, really? Like, it turns into not wanting to change your lifestyle, but also you're in a lifestyle of extremes where you go from, like I said before, and I'll say it again, when I was a kid and I want to buy a toy or I want to buy a video game, my dad would say, like, don't stop wasting your money on fucking bullshit. To, you graduating from college, you wrote a couple of books, you had a bunch of people say, hey, you could be working, you making art in New York City, you have a great future. And the first thing you do is, the first thing that happens to you with my dad when I graduate college is that I'm having a graduation dinner, I'm having a graduation lunch. And the first thing that happens is that my aunt gives me a check, $100 bill, no, a check, no, an envelope with $100 bill. And my dad's just, and grabbing the hand and being like, with the other hand. That's an extreme, really, because that says I don't respect you. I'm the father. I do whatever I want, really, and that teaches a person to say, hey, you know what? I gotta spend my money. I gotta spend my money. I gotta spend my money because I have no sense. Because nobody, I have to spend my money. I have to spend my money. I have to spend my money because somebody's gonna take it. Somebody's gonna take it. Somebody's gonna take it. Or, oh my God, my dad's in the hospital. I gotta, cancel all my plans and I gotta take care of him. Oh my God. My brother is gonna have a baby. I gotta just, look at the hospital bill and say, well, I'm not gonna go to AEW. I'm gonna give you $5,000 to pay the hospital bill. Think about Uncle Byron. Or, oh, my brother's giving birth. Oh, well, no, my brother is having a baby. Oh, well, I got to give them $10,000 to help with the college because college is going to be expensive. So sometimes that turns into what happens to a lot of people like me who have money, who can save a lot of money, and people like me who can be millionaires. Is that we grow up there's people that are like, what, if you have money, I want to take it. If you have money, I want to say, hey, you know what, you're a family member, and part of what families do is that they freeload. And I don't want that. Like, one thing I want to do when I get out of my brother's place is I want to live in a apartment with a bunch of different people, really. Everybody has their own like house or whatever. Everybody has their own room. I want to go to that because that's cool to live around people. I like that. But one thing that I will not do is get my own apartment because I'm afraid that, okay, well, that means my dad's old. So what's going to happen? Is he going to be so old that one day he's going to have to move in with me and I'm going to have to wash his ass and scrub his penis and wash his chest, really, and be like, okay, you know what, AW videos, trial videos, all that goes down the shitter because now I gotta take care of my parents, really, because I work at a hospital. I know that when you clean somebody's ass, you gotta flip them on their side and dig in there. So you're punished for ultimately being responsible. And that fucking sucks, really. If you are responsible, you get fucked over, a lot of times, really. That's why, it's bad to have responsibilities. I think that's one of the reasons why maybe I'm afraid of having more responsibilities because you get taken advantage of. So, you know what? It's a lie. It's between, what we're brought up with, which is if you make choices with your money, parents are allowed to rip dollar bills out of your hand, really. It also comes down to, anger from and resentment from that. And then it also comes down to getting a lifestyle. And then it also comes down from a fear of wanting to do better because you know how it goes. If you're more responsible, people will throw a lot of expectations on you, and sometimes it's going to suck, really. The next thing that I will say on top of that is just to talk about my future, really. That I do have to pay back the IRS a bunch of money. My brother wants me to move out in like 2 years. And I used to pay my brother 400. Now I pay him 300. But I think in the future, this is what I would do: is that I would talk to the IRS about how much I owe them and how I had to pay them back really, and then I'll work out how much money. Then I would talk to my brother and be like, hey, you know what, Matt, this is how much, this is how long it's going to take. Can I stay here a little bit longer? I'll pay you a little bit more rent, and then we'll have a little bit more rules. Like one of the rules will be that every month I take a bag of, I create a bag of garbage of stuff that I don't have, that I don't need anymore, and I throw it away. If I'm traveling to any professional wrestling shows, I should at least show them a video about what I'm creating, what I'm doing, the views and whatever, really, to say, hey, this is not a fuck around trip. This is a travel video. This is how I'm improving. This is what I'm doing. Am I making money off of this? Am I being carefree, really? And then I also got to be like, okay, I like leasing programs. So I got to be like, okay, well, here are leases. And I also got to say something like, hey, you know what? Maybe I can talk to some of the bosses and be like, okay, maybe I should change my hours and work 12-hour days because now they want to do unlimited overtime or whatever. But but yeah, I just think that for me right now, I got to make some better choices, and sometimes, like I said, I'm busy, I'm always rushing. When you're busy and rushing, you don't think about money. Like, as I said before, I was telling my friends who I'm in love with, that I was really disgusted because she wants me to eat healthy and eat better, and I love her for that. But I did something really disgusting. I ordered a double quarter pounder with cheese from McDonald's. A few hours later, I had 6 donuts. So that's $50 down the drain, really. So I want to start eating at home. I want to start being healthier. I want to start being responsible with my health. I really want to say, and I even wrote down in my notes that I want to go to Cincinnati in a couple of weeks. But one of the big goals is that I have a goal of ordering out less than 5 times. There are exceptions to that rule, really. Like if I'm working so many hours, like 14 hours, and I can't eat and I need to feed myself, that's one thing. But or if there's something like, well, my brother is going to be cooking all day and he's going to be blasting his music and he's going to be doing them as he's cooking, and ignoring the fact that I'm starving, and he's going to treat me like John Goodman and Family Guy, like, man, I need to use the kitchen. And then I have to throw away my dinners and everything like that because he's gorging. Then I gotta just like eat a little bit. But I will practice a lot more responsibility. I will really invest in myself as a content creator, and then I really would just like keep on, hitting things very, very hard. Really, I need to be responsible for my life. I really need to pick up my ball, and and usually if you don't, things come crashing. Like I told my brother, I can be here for 2 more years, and I can fuck around and find out, or I can really use it to get my life together. And if it's a little bit longer, but there is a direction, no problem with it. And then I also understand too that I'm not going to create any more debt. I'm not going to create any more problems for myself because he's because that's also another problem with people who don't mature. Like my brother has a lot of responsibility because I pay him $300 in rent, and he has his own place really. And really, if anything happens to him, really, then I'm fucked because the problem is that I don't have a good credit score. So the bank will be like, oh, well, you know what? You're not inheriting this place because you're not responsible, really. So even though if my brother died, God forbid, car crash, heart attack, whatever, the bank would not give me his place, even though I can be like, okay, this is how much I'm paying a month. I'll just continue on. This is how much I'm making. And I understand this is survival mode, which is if I don't do it, I'm fucked, really. But, but yeah, really, and that's part of one of the reasons why I should move out and do my own shit is because it's like a video that I saw on the internet about a kid who was getting into fights in school. So he and his dad are into karate, and the karate instructor says, "Okay, kid, I'm getting your dad's back. You're 18 years old, but getting your dad's back, really." And the father was doing push-ups while his son was on his back, really. And he was proving a point about how the father is weighed down because this kid is 18 and he's being young. He's being a boy. He's not being responsible, really. And I think that that's the big thing, really. And there has to be a lot more talk than anything else, really. So I do have a lot to work on, but I really think that it's like what I told my brother. We have advantages and disadvantages. We're taught things the right way. We're taught things the wrong way. There are people who who teach us because they have power issues, and and their power issues stay with us. And then there's people who just and then there's people who really just teach us the right way, and they're patient and understanding, and they're not doing that because of ego or whatever. But either way, we got to just do the right thing. I got to move forward with my life, and that's my responsibility. So even though I've had venting and issues about money, I'm willing to just I'm willing to have financial responsibility. You know, Sooner than later. Next year is the year of financial responsibility. I'm putting things in place now, really. So now's the time, and I'll increase it at the start of next year as well. Really, when I stop, doing taxes and other shit like that. Like I will get my life together, and I want to.